welcome. You are, of course, watching The Fix. My guest this morning, Andre de Ruyter, the man in the hot seat in charge of keeping the lights on in South Africa. Mr. de Ruyter, we were talking about the concerns of unions, about losses of jobs, and they understanding unbundling to be privatization. What is the unions? Are you going to be able to save jobs, or are job losses inevitable?
Karima, unfortunately, I'm struggling to hear you, but let me try and address the question. The issue around job losses, I think, has been clarified very well by the President when he said that there will be no forced retrenchments at Eskom. And we take that guidance from our shareholder, and that's certainly the way in which we intend to approach the restructuring of Eskom. And I've already told employees that same message. So I don't think there's any misalignment there in my communication with union members thus far. I think there's clarity and alignment on that perspective. So there is no misunderstanding on job losses. I think if you look at privatization.
Question of.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah, let's come to the question of privatization. There is an understanding that unbundling means privatization. Is that your understanding, Mr. de Ruyter?
No, absolutely not. I think that for South Africa to, for example, privatize the transmission grid would be quite a risk, because of the fact that in economists' language, the transmission grid is a natural monopoly, and privatizing that, I think, would be risky. However, what we do need in South Africa is we do need additional generation capacity supplied by the private sector, and as a consequence, what we want to do with the restructuring is to set up a so-called market operator, and that market operator will be located in the transmission company and will then buy not only from Eskom power stations but also from private power stations in order to crowd in private capital into this highly capital-intensive field.
All right. Now, you've explained to us how you are planning to acquire more energy. One of the big issues, of course, is corruption at Eskom. It is being highlighted at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. Now, according to the investigating unit, the Special Investigating Unit, they are probing the theft of 170 billion rand from Eskom. That is 139 billion, which is directly related to contracts and contractors working on power plants. Now, many people have argued that CEOs have come and gone, but the average age of engineers' work life at Eskom is like something like 25 years. Tell us how you plan on rooting out corruption at Eskom. And many people argue that the engineering department of Eskom has in fact been captured. Is that your view?
No, I don't think that's my view. I think we certainly have had very big challenges regarding corruption. The facts are very clear, and there's no denying that state capture played a very important role in the creation of Eskom's current powerless financial state as well as its operational challenges. I think that to the extent that there are still remnants of that around in Eskom, we are conducting lifestyle audits. We are cooperating very closely with the SIU in order to address the criminals and to bring them to book.
So when we talk about you saying that you are very close to bringing the criminals to book, give us an idea of what kind of employee and at what level this corruption is taking place, because you've got a new, the new CEO, we've got an acting new board chair, the new board is coming in, but in your top echelons, who is currently under investigation, and when can we actually see those arrests? Are you being kept informed by law enforcement agencies?
Yes, we are very much kept informed, and I think at this stage it would be inappropriate for me to disclose the details of those investigations because I don't want to prejudice the successful prosecution of people who have been guilty of corrupt conduct.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Director, one of the issues that are of concern to South Africans is, of course, the fact that the messaging around what you're trying to do at Eskom is often confusing. The one day there will be no load shedding, the next day we go from Schedule 1 to Schedule 6 load shedding. What is responsible for the miscommunication, if that is what we can call it, around Eskom? Is it just because nobody is on the same page, or because different people don't actually understand what the problems are at Eskom? There's been a complaint that people who are at Eskom are not familiar with the power station and how it works, and therefore cannot be trusted on what messages comes from whether they've got the problem in hand or not.
Yeah, I think that narrative is not correct. I think that the Eskom teams on the ground have a very good understanding of how a power station operates, so there's no doubt about that. However, due to the fact that maintenance was very poorly done, and in some instances done by people who were not appropriately qualified to do that maintenance, the generation system is unstable and it is not predictable. And that causes us severe difficulties in our attempt to supply South Africa on a continuous basis with electricity. So the plan is for us to introduce a program to bring operational stability, and that will require us to take units offline, repair them properly, and make sure that when they come back, that they are stable, reliable, and also predictable. And that, we think, will allow us to communicate as part of this plan in advance what expected load shedding might be. We understand that load shedding is incredibly disruptive to the lives of South Africans, and we therefore want to improve the way in which we communicate with the public and make sure that our customers have advance notice, so that we don't have, for example, disruptions to mines with crews underground when load shedding is introduced.
Now, Mr. Director, one of the issues, of course, is the issue around deadlines. So give us a timeline for when the maintenance on Eskom will actually be complete, and when we will be free of load shedding, or should we prepare ourselves for the next 5 years for load shedding as you actually get these old power stations maintained and, of course, acquire new sources of energy?
So I think it would be premature for me to commit to a timeline. We certainly are working on a very well-developed program with timelines. We are going to the board, the Eskom board, next week to get approval for that program, and once that is done, we'll be able to start our communication process. But we do expect that there will be a period of between 18 and 24 months when there will have to be some form of interruption in supply in order for us to rebuild capacity, and in order for us to make sure that we can, in fact, get back on the bicycle, as it were, and keep South Africa consistently supplying with electricity. As part of that plan, we intend to develop an advanced load shedding plan that we can then communicate so that people can plan their lives around the work that we need to do.
Now, when exactly will that plan be made public so that people can actually make arrangements and not be caught by surprise?
So we hope to make that plan available and keep people informed, pending, of course, board approval and also approval from our shareholder in the first quarter, the calendar quarter of this year.
All right, Mr. Ruyter, thank you so much for joining us. That's, of course, the words from the man at the helm at our power utility, Eskom. On the other side of this, we look at an economic system that makes it possible for 3,000 people to be more wealthy than 4.6 billion people. Do stay tuned.